record. So we have 5 panelists today. We have Sue Anderson-Delgato. She's a BRT, bilingual resource teacher in Madison and at Shank, is it right? And 2 kiddos learning from home as well. So teaching and learning at home happening at the same time. We've got Steve Borgman, health and PE teacher and PBIS staff, that's positive behavior intervention and supports in the Sun Prairie School District. Is it Westside Elementary that you're at? We have my friend Krista. Krista Geipel is a working and homeschool mom of 3 with, and she also has an education and teaching background and experience. And then hopefully we will have Joanna Wittrock that joins us in just a minute. I know she's been having, her internet is out, so hopefully she'll be able to join us. And she's a social worker and PBIS staff at Sandburg Elementary. So, so I'm sorry, I said 5. We have 4 panelists tonight. So thank you for joining us. And just a couple ground rules for tonight. We are going to keep muted if you can while our panelists are sharing. And if you have a question that pops up, would you please just go ahead and put it in the chat section. I'll take note. We'll have some time for questions and answers at the end. If there are resources that are talked about, I'll send a follow-up email to all of the registrants and you'll get any resources and links in that email, as well as a link to a YouTube version of this, since I'm recording, of tonight's session. So you can pass that on to friends or if you know someone who wasn't able to make it tonight. Finally, or with the questions, I was going to say, follow up with that. Depending on our time at the end, if you want to just ask questions, if it's a small enough group, we can just go ahead and unmute and ask questions, just chime in. Otherwise, feel free to write them down in the chat section and I can facilitate those as well. And then finally, and last but not least, our focus tonight is really on our kids. It's on our children and learning how to navigate this season the very best that we can. So we're not going to debate political, social, or educational philosophies tonight. We have families of public schools, private schools, homeschooled represented tonight. So our focus is on our kids. So let's just be mindful about that when we have our conversations, keep it positive, and without further ado, is there any one of our panelists who would like to start? Otherwise, I'll just call on you. Sue, I have you popped up here on my screen. So would you mind going ahead and share about yourself and some tips?
Sure. So I have been a teacher too for about 20 years, mostly working in primary. I've also been working with languages, so I've taught in Spanish. My kids are 7 and 11, and we did virtual learning Q4. And it was a big mess working from home and trying to navigate them at the same time. Hopefully I'm setting them up better for this school year, and I have some different visuals to share with you. So they also are learning in a dual immersion environment. So some of my visuals, I apologize, are in Spanish because that's what we're using at home. So I'm just gonna share my screen just for some organizational and supplies visuals that might be helpful. Let me share my screen real quick with you. Sorry. Okay, I apologize. Just didn't pop up, but all right. Well, hold on. I'll try it one more time.
Do you have the option there? I set you as a co-host.
Yeah, I sometimes. Yes, sorry, it just doesn't always.
There you go.
So some things for visual or for some supplies, if you have anything that like a caddy or something like that, or for older kids, a box, anything that resembles school, I highly suggest that you have something specific just for your school learning that's different than your art center or your play. My 7-year-old loves to draw. and it just, everything gets to be a mess if we don't have something set up just for school. I highly recommend a whiteboard, whether it's large or a small, whiteboard, just for learning. It's a nice tool for kids to be able to be off the screen a little bit during some of the learning experience. We have a visual. This is something that I did, not necessarily, it's going to be different, I know, for virtual learning for public school. It's going to be maybe more set, but this is just a pocket chart that tells my 7-year-old what are the things you have to do. You check them off when you've done them. So there's some things about reading and journal writing, math. You have to have 2 different sets of outside time before you can have any TV. That's what those little charts are there. So it's just organizing the day was helpful to her. I also made a different space this time around for my kids to each have a shelf for them to charge their Chromebooks and leave them there every day after a learning experience. And I have all of their tools, or I'm still getting it set up. So that's the space for their learning supplies. Just for environment, I feel like we've changed some things this time around as well. My son has a bedroom desk that might be a learning space for him, but it might have been more distracting to him at being in his room before. So we're all going to be working in the same space, which kind of goes if you're working from home as well as trying to maintain what your kids are doing. So maybe having a common space that's different than where they would go and have fun. My son also likes outside learning, so we have a patio table. We're hoping to explore that this time if the internet carries us out there for him to have that opportunity. Talking about positive behavior intervention, I do suggest that there's some rewards in doing the work. I know teachers are working really hard to try and make things more engaging this time around, and wanting having the kids want to participate because of more live instruction, at least in the public schools. But any kind of reward system that works for your family, whether it's a star for every session of work time that you've completed and you get 5 stars, you get something that's fun, whether it's a reward of technology or a reward of special art project, or all going out for a bike ride, whatever works for your family. But I think making it fun is really the key. That's really kind of on my mind as well, just for my own children, as well as my students. And then lastly, just again, the working from home and school is really setting boundaries. I don't feel like I was as good at that in the Q4 virtual learning work. Setup I have a different space that I'm working from this year, so I can step away from what life is. So I'm not working on the kitchen table. It's easier for me to walk away and say I'm done with work today versus keeping working while I'm, trying to get kids lunches and things like that. That was really hard for me. Really having grace with each other, and something that worked really well for my kids to communicate with me when I was in a meeting was a whiteboard or a piece of paper. It was the boundary of, you don't interrupt me when I'm talking or I'm listening or presenting, but you can write something on a whiteboard and I will answer you when I can. And then lastly, just having boundaries, like in our yard space. I can watch them from the yard from a certain window, and I let them in. They can be in the backyard, but not the front yard. They have to have permission to go someplace else. They have to be together. So just the boundaries of where kids can still play when you're working, when they have downtime as well.
Well, thank you. Any other follow-up questions with that? We'll put them in the chat section, and let's go just alphabetical, and we'll go with Steve then. Steve, would you mind sharing next?
Hello, everybody. Again, I'm Steve Borgman. I'm at Westside Elementary in Sun Prairie. This is my 18th year. I was sharing with my wife earlier that this is, it feels like I'm a first-year teacher again, as I'm getting going with everything here, which is good because it keeps me sharp. Alongside that, I have a 14-year-old son who's going to be a freshman this year. So last year, distance learning, I like to think it was easy for him, and I'm curious to know what the the high school world will bring for him. So a little nervous about that as we move forward, but we will make it work. Today I had a meeting, and you know, as you shared things, Christina, with us, I just thought that this would be an interesting way to start, or just a fun way to start. So it's just being proactive, not reactive, is key to good classroom management. I felt this applied here. It's just, you know, when you set this up, I thought it was a good time to talk about, you know, all these procedures that are being put in place in schools right now, and how can we relate them to parents. So I hope you find this useful as we go. You know, a lot of what Sue shared as well were some of my thoughts along the area of supplies. What I was thinking about is there will be supplies in one way or another that are coming home, and how do we organize those as you're getting ready for meetings, whether it is at the beginning. You know, I know in the spring we had kids who would have math stuff, and when they were asked to go get it, they had to run off to the kitchen. So it's as supplies and schedules are being made, you know, be conscious and help your students or your children to understand kind of what is it that you're going to need as you're coming up on certain subjects, just to make, you know, things flow easier. Because as a teacher, it was challenging when you asked for something and all of a sudden 3 kids were gone for a couple of minutes because they had to go find it. Along with that, the schedule piece to it, I know, you know, I can speak to Sun Prairie, and what we're being asked to do is there will be schedules that will be shared out with families, students, reiterated day after day, and, you know, encourage your kids to understand, you know, kind of the time frames of how this is going to go early on. And, you know, for us in Sun Prairie, we hope that eventually the kids will take the lead on it and be able to do these things on their own. You know, because that's really the hope. And, you know, as we think about spring and what happened, you know, there's a better grasp on everything. And so we're really going after it in a different way. Along with that, I'm going to share my screen once again. As things are coming up, the video support, and this is something that was actually shared, and again, I don't know where everyone's at, but this was a seesaw norm that was created, and this one is for families. So, and this is a link I can share out if we need to, but this was one where it talked with, you know, families to figure out things in terms of prepping the kids. One of the big things that is, as a PBIS coach, that I'm asked to do is, you know, set classrooms up for success in all these areas. And one thing that came up was making sure that kids were getting up and having appropriate clothing, like this one said, you know, making sure your technology was available. Another thing that came up from time to time was there were certain times where kids were on meetings with teachers, Zoom meetings, but then they were also playing video games, you know, so it's finding those quiet areas where the kids can work, like Sue was sharing just a few minutes ago. And then as you move into this further down the line, it's, you know, what does it look like during the meetings? You know, it's being on time, being ready and prepared. And I know teachers will share in terms of troubleshooting what happens if there's a technology issue. And we're asking our teachers to, you know, make emails readily available. If a student can't get on Zoom, then, you know, make sure you email the teacher and let them know what's happening at that point. And, you know, just further on down the line, look at the camera, follow the directions, say goodbye, and just some basic protocols as you get into the world of Zoom. And practice it, because again, it'll be a learning tool. Again, it's been a few months for some students at this. And then I guess the last thing that I had with it, and this was something that came up as we had meetings today, but just allow your child to take risks. Because as they're going, you know, through this, you know, yeah, things will be difficult. And I know personally, when you have a child, your first thing is you want to go and make sure everything's okay. And, you know, at some point it's just, you know, and understand the teachers are there and they are readily available, and those things will continue to be shared out as the distance learning goes on. Thanks
so much. And yeah, I would love to be able to include those those links in our follow-up email. So that'd be great if you could send that. All right, let's go on to Krista. You're next in the alphabet. So Krista, go ahead and share away.
Thanks. My first career for 10 years was in high school teacher, and I taught social studies. I taught economics, AP, micro and macro, and left the public school system because I was laid off and didn't know what to do with my life. So I went into corporate training and actually ended up doing project management for education, and have continued that. Now I'm in my 11th year and really love it. And I also work as a homeschool mom. And so we have 3 children. And so I'll take the angle from a little bit younger, maybe, since Steve, you did it from a little bit older, which I completely understand because I was in that world for a while. And so I'll try to flip it a little bit. So one of the things and missions that our family has taken on in the last 3 months is to just help people like Christina in the homeschool world, which also gets very, it crosses over into the virtual school families very easily. And so we've been supporting, because I'm in IT, I have a lot of easy access to things like making a website and publishing lots of just tools for homeschool parents that are brand new because they don't feel that having virtual school for their 4-year-old or 5-year-old or 6-year-old is working for them. And so how do I do that homeschooling now? And so we've been supporting a lot of, I have 5,000 friends in the matter of, 6 weeks. It's been very quick because the need is there and we're not doing it for any profit. This is totally free. We've gotten a couple donations and we just give it away. And so everything I'm showing today and want to share with you is just because we really want to be as much help as possible. And I want to help as many people, whether it's public school, virtual school, charter, virtual school. I mean, I know them all, right? And we all have our own specific needs. And so I'm going to try and share things that kind of branch over all of those groups. So I'm going to share my screen also. And a lot of these things will be already things that are published out in some of our networks. And so what we called our little quick, organization is called nimble schooling, because it's that kind of schooling right now where we're just totally flexible, right? We're trying to be as nimble as possible. And so one of the things Christina asked us to share was, well, how do we organize our lives? I'll tell you right now, I am the least crafty person out there. I don't like to do all of the cutesy kinds of things. I am a project manager. I want it done as efficiently as possible. And so with that, I homeschool all 3 kids with all of our materials, which we have a book for every curriculum, and we use all paper, and it all fits in these 2 carts. And I don't have a schoolroom. I don't have desks. Nothing. We do it at the kitchen table or on the couch or on the floor, because remember, I have little kids. And so you can see these are highly efficient. So Steve, you were talking about how to prep for that next subject. These are perfect for those things. Otherwise, those magazine holders are perfect also. And you can buy them super cheap because you can get them cardboard and through Amazon, and you can go ahead and put each subject in a separate file cardboard magazine holder. We used that for a while. It didn't work if you have books because they all fall over. But if you just have sheets and worksheets, it works really well. So that's what we use for organizing. I have everything we own. So some of you have small children at home. In addition, to elementary, a little bit older, sometimes even high schoolers. So how do you keep them all busy and possibly work? It's not easy, right? So you have to get all the things. And that's what I called this vlog that I did. And again, it's on my Facebook page. It's called Nimble Schooling Homeschool. You can find it. And I have Amazon lists. I don't get any profit from it. It's not an affiliate link. So there's all sorts of affiliate links where people get money out of it. This is not that. I don't have any of that. And so I have lists for my organizational tools, and I have lists for what is called busy boxes. So some of you have little kids and you want to keep them busy while you're doing other things or facilitating things, or like Sue said, her children need to be busy for chunks of time. I have all sorts of fun stuff that is kind of Montessori style-ish, goes all the way up to probably 7 years old. All right. I have lots of books, lists, and other things also. Let's see. Might have an internet issue here. We'll see. Okay, then scheduling. So I did a vlog just on scheduling. I have 3 schedules. I have a family schedule. The family schedule has all of the subjects that we have to cover each day, Monday through Friday. That's mine to own, right? Because I need to capture what I have to do for my responsibilities. And because we co-parent teach, my husband needs to know what he's doing on what day, and I need to know what I'm doing on what day. And sometimes because we school at night, because we're crazy and we have to try and fit it all in, just like all of you, we're schooling at night sometimes. So what do we do on those days? And then we also schedule fun. Don't forget that in all of this, right? If you don't schedule it, it doesn't happen, right? And so we have to, on Fridays, we schedule fun Fridays or field trip Fridays. And so see in your schedule when you can try to do that. And then each Friday we pick a new adventure. And so we just went paddleboarding, and that was a fun family thing that we did. And we scheduled it. Otherwise, again, it didn't happen. We also have schedules for each child. And this is where it gets into them owning the schedule, them owning their own responsibilities, like Steve had suggested, especially in the high school years, having a check off. And then Sue talked about rewards. So my children have to have their checklist complete before they earn any free time. Free time, whether it's iPad time, because they get education. I mean, it's all sometimes a little joke because they get free time to do education apps, but or they can watch education movies at night then. If they don't finish, they don't get it. They also have to have all of this finished before we can have Fun Friday. So they really have bought into it, but it does not happen overnight. It takes a lot of reinforcement, and it takes a lot of sitting down at night and, okay, what didn't we finish? Okay, let's sit down and finish it without being angry and all of those things, which is really hard from a project manager standpoint. I also have one for young children, because I have 2 children that one is learning how to read and then one is not a reader because she's not 3 yet. So these are, again, on the Facebook page, free to download and edit yourself. Okay, so all of that is there for you. This has been really helpful for my second child, Henry, who is like, yeah, I won't do anything but play with Legos all day if you let me. He's an awesome introvert and I love him, and it takes a lot of motivation to get him going. And so this has really helped. My children also do earn allowance. And so they don't get their quarter at the end of the day if they don't do their responsibilities. So those people have all sorts of ideas and, you know, philosophies on those things, but that's just what we do and what has worked for us. Okay, so some of you are like, well, how do I juggle all of this with multiple children? Like, one's doing this over here, one's doing this over here, I'm supposed to be doing this, right? I don't have a great solution, but I have captured moments when my children have all three been working at the same time, and I have put them on my Instagram account or in my Facebook page. So you'll see, I think I have 4 different times where I have captured it on video where they're all three are doing school. So if you want to see how it like visually looks, because that's how you learn best, feel free to look at those. Can you hear the cicadas? Okay, so I have a vlog. So I do not work full-time currently because that does not work with me. But I do work 25 hours and I have worked full-time. So I do sympathize. I give advice, but the advice may not work for any of you on what I give. But it's an interesting perspective. So feel free to check this vlog out on how to homeschool or how to virtual school possibly in your case, and then work full time. How to motivate your children. So I did a vlog on that. I just talked about how to with the checklist. And then lastly, we did put up everything. There's a 2.5-hour seminar that we did. We posted it here for free of how to get homeschool started. However, I know you're not homeschooling. So there's 30 minutes towards the end of the homeschool section where it simply talks about how to do busy boxes, what to buy, what are those awesome purchases that you can have for younger children. It also talks about scheduling for like a half an hour. And so if you're interested in rewatching any of that, then we have, some of you might want to incorporate like a morning basket. So if you don't know what a morning basket is, there's a whole section on like how to put a morning basket together so that when your children wake up, they have an activity ready to go. Because maybe you're working and you need them to be doing something. So you get that ready because, you know, for me, the biggest reason why I get frustrated is because I didn't prepare my children. And then I'm like, oh yeah, well, they're doing these things that I don't want them to do because I didn't own that enough. And so one of the things that might help is creating kind of a busy box, or in this case, a morning time where they get up and they can get going and self-sufficient. And it gives you, Sue, 2 hours possibly to get work done. That might be an idea for you. I know Steve is all about fitness and, you know, that end of things. There's adventures and activities here, especially if you're doing social distancing. There's tons of ideas in here. And then I think that would be it for you guys. So thanks for allowing me time to share those things. And when you have time and want to check anything out, feel free and send me any Facebook messages. I'm happy to go ahead and walk you through questions that you might have through this.
Okay, let's see, there we go. Wow, thanks, Krista. That was so much great information. I love how you have that all in an easy to find, it looks like, Instagram, and you've got Facebook. I know you've got your Facebook group, which I've been able to take a peek at, and so great resources, and we'll include those links then for you in a follow-up email. So thank you. Well, let's see. I don't think Joanna made it. I know with the storm last night, she lost, I haven't been able to check email. So I don't know if Krista, if you would mind checking that, that would be great. Okay. And I think I've got just a couple questions here that I know were submitted by parents, as well as some that I kind of was mulling around in my head as well. So, so one of the questions is how do you balance work from home while also monitoring your child's participation in school and completing assignments? Do any of you have any other insights to share on that? Anything that spurred like, oh, I want to add X, Y, and Z? Anybody want to share anything else on that?
I guess just for me, I suggest working in the similar space. You know, I have a middle schooler starting middle school, and he had frustrations, very advanced learner in 5th grade, but he had his own frustrations with technology, and being closer to me, I'll be able to help him easier when I can pause. And I think that he was too far away from me before, and I didn't know that he was frustrated, and so the frustrations got even worse. So.
Yeah, we just set up tables nearby. We've got desks going, and that was our spring. We punted, and one went into the playroom area and kind of locked himself in there, and I couldn't monitor. Thankfully, my high schooler can do his own work up in the office, and then but yeah, having common space, you can keep them on track. They would often sit at the same table and goof around though. So I do have them spread apart at separate tables in the same room. So, Steve, I would love it if you could share some helpful supports and interventions that parents could easily do at home. I know if you're in the education world, PBIS is something that just is something that we've been talking about in the public education world for years now. But what are some simple tenets of this that parents could easily bring home?
First piece to that would be, how you set up your distance learning classroom. And that's really a lot of the push right now that we are setting up at our schools. It's, creating the environment similar to the link that I shared earlier. It's using those tools. But then as you get further into it, it's, the reward systems that Sue talked about. How do you create a reward system? I can say from a teacher standpoint, I know that our classroom teachers will be doing that as well, but why can't you as a parent do that as well? And, we always say, we don't have money to spend, so what are some of the easy things that you can do? And it's like Krista shared, it could be an educational iPad time. It could be things like that. From there,
Steve, we add we do date night too with a parent, because there's 3 kids, and we're home because we're homeschooled. We're with them all the time, so to have that one-on-one time is huge. So some children might find huge value in that.
I love that. I might take that back and have a student teacher twist to that as well. That was good. And the other thing that came up through all the conversation is, know your child the best. And so, really, watch them as they're learning. What we do in schools, if you notice a kid needs a break, there is time to take mindfulness breaks. There are movement breaks that we need to do. So, really listen to your child. And if you see the frustration mounting, don't keep pushing. That's not going to be good for anybody. Allow them to then step back and let them get refreshed and come back.
What are some good mindfulness break things that you could do? Or I'm thinking brain breaks. I've used Go Noodle before, but what other things are available for families to be able to, when they start seeing that screen fatigue or just restlessness, what are some great resources that you could use, or just activities that you can say on a dime, okay, here's what we're going to do, brain break?
Well, right now I'd say just get outside and take a walk, enjoy the weather, just change the environment that you're in, and, get away from, because a lot of the times, especially, knowing what's, some of the schedules that are coming up, it's going to be a couple hours that kids might be engaged, and still, try to separate that time from them. You'll have your classroom setups in your house, and so what can you do just to get away from it, forget about it for a while. I feel silly saying this, but in the sense that if you're in front of a computer all day, could you search out YouTube mindfulness breaks and still be on a computer? Sure, those are options and those are out there, but that's just coming off the top of my head. So be creative, search things out. I don't know, off the top of your head, Sue, Krista, do you guys have anything that you've used?
We have like yoga poses that are, we've printed off onto for my 7-year-old to look at, and so she can do some yoga poses if she gets frustrated. And like
yeah, you guys are talking about all of that. I pulled this from about like 10 different sites. We're sharing just different options. So can you see my screen?
Mm-hmm.
It's like PE with Joe exercise. These are really common, like especially in the public school system. Exercise, go noodle, like you just said. Dance party with kids bop. That some of this is for the younger kids. Cosmic Kids yoga, which is huge. There's a ballet link, Yabata. And then I did a checklist, and it's down here. And it's like all the social distancing things that you can do, but also at the bottom, there's not social distancing. So that's in a different section, but if you scroll down, it's right here. It might pop up. So if you're like interested in kind of a one-stop shop looking at things, I tried to combine this for people because depending on the child, and I think Sue and Steve, you're getting at it of the same thing. It really depends on the age of the child. And it depends on, what do they find intrinsically valuable when it's, what is a break to them is very different than maybe a break to me.
All right, are there any other questions for some of our parents that are on? Anything that came to mind? I'll let you just chime in. Otherwise, go ahead and use the chat. I'm looking here. Let's see. It says, I don't know if everyone sees, Nikki had said to everyone, we picked up a desk this summer for our 7-year-old Allison here, and $5 plus some spray paint. And wow, dedicated workspace. That's great. We just took our daughter I drove her up to campus. She goes to school in Minnesota, and so I swung by IKEA and got $8 tabletops and screwed the legs on today. So we're all set, just a cheap, inexpensive, something that we can definitely use again too. How about another question that was asked on a registration, best way to stay organized with an active 6-year-old and a busy 2.5-year-old. And I think, Krista, you've really hit the nail on the head with that having kids that age. You've got an elementary kiddo, you've got preschool age. When you've got different schedules going on as well, including nap and snacks and things like that, has there been anything that you found? I know you have got the busy boxes as well, as you mentioned. Any other tips that you could share that?
Yeah, I do co-parent, right? So my husband and I very much, this is not a me show at all. We do everything in our family together. So first of all, having goals, if there is a co-parent, if there's not, it's your show. So then it's a little bit different, but if you're sharing it, talking about that, communicating that of what each other needs is huge. So what helps me or has helped me is that, we do a lot of schooling immediately in the morning. My children have the most attention right away. So we eat and then we start. And my husband takes one child and does reading and language arts, because that's the hardest. It's the most focused at that age, right? At 5, 6, 7, like that's where they're going to pour most of their energy in. And then I take the other child. And so we split. And then our third child just kind of like, she knows by now. She either hangs out with one of us or sits on our lap or brings something to play. So we split up between the hours of 7:30 and 8:30. And I get the majority of the hard stuff done right away. And then my son is done because he's 5. And he needs time to go do something. And that's where Steve is like, okay, he needs a break, right? And he does get a break. So I send him out and he does something for an hour and then I bring him back in for math. Well, when that's happening, then I'm working on the next child, right? And so there's a lot of management when this is happening when you have younger children. And I'll be really frank, like it is not, if you have a job on top of that, like it's very difficult because you're dealing with a child that potentially would be in daycare, right? So, yeah.
For Sue and Steve, when I'm just thinking of routines that are set and schedules that are set by the school district and the teachers, what are some things that parents could do to keep kids motivated if the school routine or assignments are similar day in, day out? And I guess, some of the question here is based off of what happened the end of the year last year. And I know that things are going to be different and more engaging. Our educators have had to do a full pivot. But are there any suggestions that you could give to help just motivate when there is that screen fatigue, when I've got that 2 to 2:30 class that I still have to sign in for or whatever at the end of the day?
Are you going, Sue? Go
Go
ahead.
ahead, Steve. Go ahead. Okay, well, I'll say just for the elementary age that I think communication with the teacher is really important. Teachers want to know if kids are tired because this is all new for all of us. And I think that some of us already feel like we're expecting a lot more from kids this time around, and we want to make sure kids aren't going to get fatigued. So I think there's wiggle room that teachers are going to want to adapt to the best needs of the families. I also think a lot of the schedule, the hardest parts for the elementary anyway, will be in the morning. And so kids just really need to get through the morning, and then there's funner activities in the afternoon. And I know that'll look different at middle school and high school. Steve, maybe you'd like to address some more of
that. Yes, I agree. The communication part is huge because everything that happens here, the thought of families are always in mind for us as educators. It's, a lot of things are going right now, and it's just like, is this really necessary for a family to have to click on this page and then go to that page and then go to that page to find something? So the thought is always there. I can say from a standpoint of Sunbury, the schedule and what we're creating, I know the schedule is based more toward the morning time, like an 8 to noon kind of thing. And then we as teachers are asked to figure out with families where they need support. Meaning my schedule might be where I have to create a schedule and I might have to be available from 4 to 6 at night because that's when my families need me. And so, like you said, Sue, it's communicate the needs, and we're here to accommodate. It's not our normal world, but we wouldn't be here without your kids, and we love them to death, and we just want to keep doing what's best for them. So communicate. And the other piece to the schedules I wanted to say, in terms of the teaching part, it is smaller, 3 to 5 minute videos that I know that kids are being asked to watch. But then we are also then breaking out to smaller groups and maybe working with 3 kids at a time to give more direct support as the day goes on. And, we're going to be flexible. Could that work? it could be wonderful. Do we need to change that up in 2 weeks? We might have to. So we're just, please communicate with the families or the teachers that you have and let us know what you need.
Great. Any last questions here? Any last thoughts from any of our panelists? I think we're on a little bit of a short end with Joanna wasn't able to join us, but if there's anything else that anyone wants to add in, or oh, I forgot this tip, I need to share it, let us know. I'll give you a couple seconds here to think, and uncomfortable silence.
I just wanted to say, and I don't know everyone here, but I just want to say thank you to Door Creek. You guys have been wonderful for the Westside community and everything that you guys do for us. I can say our staff, we love you guys, and you've just been awesome for us. We appreciate it.
Thanks so much. It's so wonderful to be able to be part of our communities and support education that way. So we are so glad that we are partnered with Westside and Mendota Elementary as well. And we've worked with Sandburg a little bit this past summer during this crazy COVID season as well. So yeah, it's really great. So thank you. Thanks for saying that. All right, anything else? And I think we will call it a night just a few minutes early, unless burning questions, your last chance. All right. Well, tomorrow we are, our last seminar is focusing in on early literature and math skills. I think that one for me was a huge conundrum, talking with some of my colleagues, like, how do you teach such complex skills to a class of kids over Zoom? And so there's so many things that educators have in their back pocket, and we have reading specialists and classroom teachers and so many great tips that will help support literacy and math, those emerging skills. That will be tomorrow night's focus. It will be the same Zoom link that you used today to sign in. And I will send a follow-up email tomorrow morning with the link to this, recapping our evening together, with the Zoom call on YouTube. And it'll be like I said, an unlisted link for right now, and we may share that a little bit more extensively as we see the need and the interest. So, and again, if anybody is interested in the social emotional seminar that we had yesterday, please feel free to reach out to me and I will send you that link. It was a fantastic evening as well. And I just really, really want to thank Steve and Sue and Krista for joining us tonight. What a great night of really practical, insightful advice and tips, as we're all doing this together. So to quote High School Musical, we're all in this together. So I really, really appreciate our panelists for joining us, taking time out of their evening, especially on a week that professional development just started. So I know it's been a long day for you. And thanks so much. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you guys. Hey, Tyler.